Hi, my name is Terry, and you're watching Terry Tells the Story. Today, we're talking about the underground schools of the Soviet Union. In 1922, the Soviet Union was established with a specific mandate: the total eradication of religious belief in favor of state mandated atheism. This was not a suggestion, it was enforced through the legal code and the secret police. By 1929, the law on religious associations stripped every religious group of their legal standing. It became a criminal offense to teach religion to anyone under the age of 18. And any parent or preacher who attempted religious education was viewed as a saboteur of the revolution. The government created a curriculum designed to replace God with the state. Textbooks were rewritten to portray religious believers as mentally ill or enemies of the working class. In public schools, teachers encouraged students to spy on their parents. If a child reported that a candle was lit or a prayer was whispered at home, that family would face immediate interrogation, loss of employment, or deportation to the labor camps. The goal was simple: to ensure that within one generation, the concept of a higher power would be completely erased from the country's consciousness. As the public cathedrals were converted into warehouses and museums, a parallel world began to emerge in the shadows. This was the birth of the underground schools. These were not buildings with desks and chalkboards. They were mobile, secretive, and highly disciplined networks. A school might be a kitchen table at 3 o'clock in the morning, a cellar beneath an apartment, or a clearing deep in the woods. The logistics of these schools required extreme precision. To avoid detection by the NKVD, the secret police, lessons were often broken into fragments. A child might learn history from one person, literature from another, and theology from a third. The students were told from a very young age that their lives depended on their silence. If a neighbor asked what they did last night, they were trained to speak only of state-approved activities. This created a generation of children who lived double lives. They were model Soviet citizens by day and purveyors of ancient traditions by night. Materials were their greatest challenge. Bibles and religious texts were confiscated and burned by the thousands. To combat this, the underground schools utilized self-publishing. People would hand copy entire books of the Bible and historical texts using carbon paper, sometimes making only 10 copies at a time. These copies were then disassembled and distributed page by page. A student might carry a single page of a text hidden in the lining of their coat, memorizing every word before passing it to the next person. If caught with a single page, the penalty was often 10 years in the gulag. The teachers in these schools were often women, referred to as the quiet ones. Many were the widows of priests and scholars who had already been purged by the state. They understood that by teaching these children religion, they were effectively signing their own death warrants. They didn't teach for money or fame, they taught because they believed so deeply in the religion. They were focused on 3 core pillars: literacy, history, and moral character. One of the most effective methods used was the circle of memory. Since physical books were dangerous, the underground schools relied heavily on oral tradition. Children were taught to memorize vast portions of scripture, poetry, and historical dates. This made the information search-proof. The secret police could raid a cellar and find nothing because the entire curriculum existed only in the minds of the students. The state's reaction to these schools was brutal. In the 1930s, under Joseph Stalin, the League of Militant Atheists was given state funding to hunt down these women. They conducted atheist carnivals to mock the faith of the people. They increased the rewards for informants. Thousands of women were executed, and thousands more children were taken from their parents to be raised in state orphanages where they were re-educated. Yet for every school that was closed, 2 more seemed to pop up in a neighboring district. The underground schools often served as preservation sites for language and culture as well. In many parts of the Soviet Union, the central government tried to erase local languages and replace them with Russian. The secret schools became the only places where local dialects, songs, and customs were kept alive. Decades later, when the Soviet Union finally began to show cracks, many of the people who led movements for independence were graduates from these schools. So, the Spanish I'm going to be teaching you today is Convicción. Convicción. And what that means is conviction. The state acted on the convicción that religion was an obstacle to a rational society, while the underground teachers acted on the convicción that their traditions were central to their identity. If you like this video or you learned something new, drop a like down below. If you have a specific topic that you'd like to see me cover, drop me a comment. And if you'd like to support this work that I do, there'll be a link to the Cash App in the description box below. We'll see you next time.